All right, we're easing our way through Revelation, and we've come to a strange point in the story. For weeks now, we've been looking at. Now we started off with the seals. There was a little book that the Father, the God who was seated on the throne in heaven, was holding a scroll that was sealed with 7 seals. So started opening the seals, and it was Jesus opening the seals. The first 4 seals were the 4 horsemen, bringing all kinds of terrible events and plagues on the earth, and war and devastation. Then the 5th and 6th seal. Then there was a pause, and then the 7th seal. And following the 7th seal, you started having these trumpets. 7 angels stepped forth, were given 7 trumpets. They started blowing the trumpets. First 4 trumpets were terrible enough, but then the last 3 trumpets, if you remember, after the 4th trumpet, an eagle flew over and says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," meaning there's 3 really bad things that are about to happen. I can imagine the people said, 3 bad things? We've just been having years of bad things, but 3 really, really, really bad things that are going to happen. 5th trumpet was blown. 6th trumpet was blown. This was an unbelievable demonic attack on the earth. The earlier ones had been cosmic and geological events. This was supernatural and demonic. And then after the 6th seal, the 6th trumpet, there's another pause. And we were dealing with that pause last week. And we come to chapter 11, and we're really at a point where there's no way to story this. I think it would lose its punch because we're not going to deal with an entire story tonight. The Revelation story is taking a pause, so our storying is going to take a pause. We finished with those 2 incredible witnesses last week, whomever they may be, and we come up to chapter 11, verse 15, that says, "Then," well, if you remember in verse 14, the second woe had passed. Behold, the third woe is soon to come. When is this going to happen? We don't know. We don't know for sure when any of this is going to happen, and in the exact sequence of events. Some of them are going to overlap. You've got 2 main camps of thinking. One says all of this is symbolic. Nothing is literal. There's not going to be 4 literal horsemen and literal things falling from the sky. And it's all symbolic. Some within that camp would say that this is not even, these aren't all future events. Some would say that a lot of this has already taken place, that it's pretty much the persecution of the church through the church age. And they would even go all the way back to some of the Roman persecution of Christians, the Roman Empire, the way they persecuted Christians. Some would say that you could probably find people like Adolf Hitler or modern day persecution in all of this, the way the Jews endured persecution, 7 million Jews, even though they're trying to write that out of history books. The Holocaust did happen. So that camp of people would say that this isn't literal, it's figurative. Some of it's already happened, some of it's yet to happen. Some of it's happening now. And the main thing is that Jesus will come back. They probably don't believe in a 7-year tribulation or a literal antichrist or any of that. That's one camp of people. And if you read a lot of commentaries and Christian speakers and scholars, and you had a list of the people that you respect the most, some of them would be in that camp. I promise you that. When I look at who is an amillennial, it's what you'd call those people. When I look at the list of amillennials, it's a pretty impressive list. Some of those guys are pretty sharp and well respected. And that's what they think. Then you got this other camp of people that say it's literal. It hasn't happened yet. There's going to be 7 years of tribulation, 3.5 years of bad tribulation, then 3.5 years of the great tribulation. So you got these two camps of thought. But we've leaned more toward the literal, what would be called a premillennial view. And I can't help but lean that way because that's what I am, as a premillennialist, although I respect the other bunch of people. And they've got good arguments. But as we look at this thing and we see this pause, if the premillennials are right, the pause is pretty much in the middle of the 7-year tribulation. And there's this moment of every time there's a pause, it's to let believers take a deep breath and get encouraged because it's fixing to break loose. Everything that we're talking about here in the latter part of the book of Revelation. The book kind of falls into this outline that chapters 6 through 11 talk about Jesus taking back what rightfully belonged to him in the first place. If he's taking it back, Jesus, God, they're the same, is sovereign. He's in control, but he has handed over ownership, because even Jesus said Satan was the prince of the power of the air, the ruler of this world. So when did that happen? When did he hand over the keys, so to speak, of earth to Satan?
When he kicked him out of heaven?
When he kicked him out of heaven?
About 2 weeks ago, wasn't it?
2 weeks ago?
If you told us about that.
Or maybe
having that board meeting talking about Joe.
Maybe it was the first Tuesday in November. I don't know. What's that?
They were having a board meeting talking about Joe.
No, well, that's. I'm glad you remember that. I'm impressed. You remember that conversation. We said they were in heaven and Satan and God were talking about Job. I think that it was when Adam and Eve sinned. Up until that point, it was a perfect world. But when Adam and Eve sinned, sin has been in control ever since. And Satan is the author of sin. So it would only make sense to me that that's the point, that ever since then, all of heaven's been waiting for this moment when Jesus will take back what's rightfully his. Listen to the way he puts it. Then the seventh angel blew his trumpet, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever." And the 24 elders, remember those guys? The 24 elders who sit on their thrones before God fell on their faces and worshiped God, saying, "We give thanks to you, O Lord God Almighty, who is and who was, for you have taken your great power and begun to reign. The nations raged, but your wrath came, and the time for the dead to be judged, and for rewarding your servants, the prophets and saints, and those who fear your name, both small and great, and for destroying the destroyers of the earth." Can you see it? Man, there's this celebration in heaven. The pause between the sixth and the seventh trumpet. The seventh trumpet's blown, and when it is, it's like shooting a gun at a race. They go crazy. They go wild, and everybody's celebrating and worshiping, and the 24 elders are falling down, and I bet those 4 living creatures are flying around, and everybody's praising God and worshiping him because he's about to take back what was rightfully his the whole time. And all right now, right this second, heaven is sitting at the edge of their seat, waiting on this to happen. Remember, Jesus said no one knows the hour when that trumpet's going to get blown. So the angels don't know. The 24 elders don't know. The 4 living creatures don't know. They're all sitting on the edge of their seat thinking at any minute that 7th angel is going to blow his trumpet and kick this thing. The ending will begin. So it's an exciting moment, but watch what happens. He blows the trumpet in chapter 11, verse 15. What happens is not described until chapter 15. So, chapters 12, 13, and 14, what's going on? And it's like I told you last week, chapters 6 through 11 and 15 and beyond, it's like a photographer that's zoomed in his zoom lens, and he's looking at fine detail and specific events. Chapters 12, 13, and 14, he backs off, and maybe he uses his wide-angle lens and looks at a broader canvas of the same stuff. So in 12, 13, and 14, we're going to be talking about the same stuff we've already been talking about, but with a twist. It's almost as if he's looking at it from Satan's viewpoint. He's going to introduce some new characters. They're not new. They've been there the whole time. But John was seeing all of these horrible, judgmental things that were happening rather than seeing the big picture of who's behind all of this. He knew God was allowing it to happen, but who was leading the charge? Who was making it happen? Who are the main players in this? If this is a movie, who's the leading cast? And that's what 12, 13, and 14 are going to be. I thought it was interesting in the latter part of verse 15. He says, the kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. The kingdom. First thing I notice when I read that line is it's singular. But, I mean, is that a mistake? We've had a whole bunch of kingdoms. You go back to the church history, Israel's history. You got 4 major kingdoms, well, really 5, because it started with the Assyrian Empire. Then you had the Babylonian Empire, and then you had the Medo-Persian Empire. Then you got the Greek Empire. Then you got the Roman Empire. So there are 5 kingdoms right there that have run the earth. Fast forward through history, go into Christian days, go into, turn of the millennia, 1000, 1100, 1200 AD. You got the age of the Vikings. That was a kingdom that ruled the earth for years. You come out of that and fast forward a few hundred years more, and you've got the French Empire that ruled the earth. Again, move forward a few hundred years, you got the British Empire that ruled the earth. A few hundred years more, you've got the American Empire, the United States, that was the world power. I'll say in past tense. And in our generation, we may live long enough to see a transition, a shifting of the power. Because if current events continue very long, we're in the process of this current administration's in the process of handing the baton to the Chinese. And you wonder why America is not mentioned in Bible prophecy. So maybe before all of this happens, there may be another kingdom. It may be the Chinese Empire that rules the earth. So why did it say kingdom singular and not kingdoms plural?
If you put them all together into one, it is one.
Yeah. Yes, the kingdom of Satan. They were all the kingdom of Satan. Whether it was the Babylonians or the Vikings or whoever it may be. Well, even America, 1 John 4:3. And I've got several verses I'm going to try to read in the next 10 minutes. So rather than having you read them, I'm just going to read them real fast. And if you want to go back and look at them, just jot this down. Or you'll be able to go to Facebook or our website and hear me say these again. 1 John 4:3 says, every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, which you heard was coming and now is in the world already. So, any government that does not put God at the top of the, I hate to say the top of the totem pole, but you know what I mean. If God is not God, that government, no matter how kind or benevolent or progressive or civilized it may have been, that government is of the spirit of Antichrist, which is the spirit of Satan. So, that also includes a presidency. It also includes local government. It can mean the way a city or a county is run. If it's not being run by the Spirit of God, then it is being run by the Spirit of Satan. There is no happy medium. There's no, well, it's pretty godly, but not godly as it ought to be. You're either the Spirit of God or the Spirit of Satan. And that includes boards of supervisors and aldermen and mayors and governors and presidents and world powers. So that's why it says the kingdom and not kingdoms. Y'all, Satan's been trying, and you know how much I love history, but Bible history ties in so much with world history. Satan's been trying to unify his world government for several thousands of years. Anybody think they want to take a guess? It's when his unification process really began, goes all the way back to Genesis, not Garden of Eden or Adam and Eve. It was an event that took place when he was about to do it. He was about to have a one world government. Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel. And God said, no, buddy, you're getting way too close. We're going to bust this thing up. And they scattered it. Ever since then, he's tried to unify his people, and he can't do it. Now, he tried through all of those empires. Alexander the Great, had he not died at the young age that he did, he was real close to being a world conqueror. He did conquer the known world. He was probably closer than even any Roman. You could think Hitler tried to do it. A lot of people have tried to do it. In fact, Satan thought he had it figured out when he tempted Jesus, because he kept saying, you just turn all this over to me and you'll be fine. I'll let you do anything you want to do. You just worship me. Let's unify this thing around me, and I'll let you have your time in the spotlight. He's always trying to have one world government. Does that phrase ring a bell? Scary. That anybody that tries to create one world government is putty in Satan's hands. No, is a gun in Satan's hands. So that's what's happening is in world history is Satan's trying to unify his people, and when the trumpets start blowing, God is saying, "That's I've had it with you. That's enough." And then when the seventh trumpet blows, we're going to see things really fall apart. If chapters 12 through 14 are all about the Antichrist, well, they're not all about the Antichrist, but that's the main theme. I want to throw some things at you real fast. What do we know about the Antichrist? Okay? What do we know? Not what do we think. We don't know who it is. We don't know for sure exactly where he's going to come from or what he's going to look like. Or we don't know any of that. But we do know this. Now, number one, he will be brilliant. We're not talking about some maniac that's going to crawl out from under a rock. He will be brilliant. Daniel 8:25. By his cunning he shall make deceit prosper under his hand, and in his own mind he shall become great. Without warning he shall destroy many, and shall even rise up against the prince of princes. In Daniel, that's capitalized, which means God. But he shall be broken, but not by a human hand. Now, folks, I don't have time to really unpack this, but folks over in that everything's symbolic camp say that that verse has already been fulfilled, and it was about a guy by the name of Antiochus Epiphanes that came up during the Roman Empire. Antiochus Epiphanes was bad to the bone. But the line that said he shall be broken, but not by human hands. Antiochus died a physical human death. Antichrist will not. He will die by the hands of God. So it can't be Antiochus Epiphanes. Plus,
Sounds like alive, no?
Oh yeah. In fact, he mimics, everything about him mimics Jesus. He's going to perform miracles. He's going to do the impossible. And he's going to die and resurrect, just like Jesus did. So he'll be a brilliant person. He will be a blasphemer. Daniel 11:36 says, the king shall do as he, king being little k, king, talking about Antichrist, will do as he wills. He shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, little g God, and shall speak astonishing things against the God of gods. Revelation 13:5 says, the beast, that's what he's called in Revelation, was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority for 42 months. How long is 42 months? 3.5 years. That's why most premillennialists say this is the last half of the Great Tribulation. He was brilliant. He's a blasphemer. He was very wealthy. He will be very wealthy. Daniel 11:38, a God whom his fathers did not know. Now, there's a lot of mystery in that line, which that says to us something's going to happen that humans have never experienced before. They knew every false god imaginable. They worshiped the moon and the sun and the fire and water and rivers and animals and trees. But Daniel, through God's inspiration, said, wait a minute, something's coming y'all ain't seen yet. Talking about this stuff. He said, a God whom his fathers did not know shall he honor with gold and silver and precious stones and costly gifts. So he's going to be brilliant. He's going to be a blasphemer. He's going to be extremely wealthy. He's going to be a political genius. Revelation 17 says, as for the beast that was and is not. Y'all, there's a thing in prophecy that there's a fancy word for it, but basically it's when a prophet says something that hasn't happened yet, but he says it in the present tense as if it was happening. It would be like if I knew without any shadow of a doubt that that chair was going to fall over, rather than predicting it and say that chair is going to fall over, I would say, as the chair fell over, such and such, as if it had already happened. So there's a thing in prophecy where they talk about future stuff as if it's already happened, and it's a sure thing. Well, it is a sure thing, as God told them. So, as for the beast that was and is not, that's his way of saying he's going to get his. It is an eighth, but it belongs to the seven. I'll explain that. And it goes to destruction. And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, and they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour, together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will hand over their power and authority to the beast. We really don't have time for that, but we'll get to it. The 10 kings are talking about a unified European, a new Roman Empire that a lot of people think is the European Union. And these 10 kings are going to be completely fooled by the Antichrist. He's going to defeat 3 of them right out. and the rest of them are going to give all the authority they had to him. He's a political genius. He's going to be a finagler and a schemer like we have never seen before. He's brilliant, he's wealthy, he's a political genius, he blasphemes God, and he's a military mastermind. Revelation 13:2, the beast that I saw was like a leopard, his feet was like a bear's, its mouth was like a lion's, and to it, the dragon, that is Satan himself, gave his power and his throne and his authority. So he's not only smart and cunning, but he's fierce and strong. He will be just overwhelmingly shrewd as a military man. What Eric mentioned a minute ago, he'll be able to perform miraculous signs and wonders. 2 Thessalonians 2, verse 9, the coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing because they refuse to love the truth and be saved. So he'll be able to if he wants to make that chair fall over, he can do it. Y'all, if that chair fell right now, we'd all run out of here. So miraculous signs. Next to last, he'll be possessed by Satan himself. Satan will live in him. Again, Revelation 13:2, I've already read. It said he gave his throne and his power and his authority to the beast, which is the Antichrist. And the last thing is, he will rise from a reunited Roman Empire. Daniel 7 verse 8 says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up a horn from among them, a little one, before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were like eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. That's going to be Satan. Daniel 7 verse 25 says, he shall speak words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change the times and the law. Nobody really knows what that means. He's going to change the times and the law, and they shall be given into his hand for a time and times and a half a time. Time equals a year, times being double that, so that's 2 years. So 1 year and 2 years and a half a year. What's that add up? 3.5 years, 42 months, 1,260 days. We keep seeing that number over and over and over. If it is just figurative, as the amillennials say, he sure threw it in there a whole bunch of times. No pun intended. What is this new Roman Empire? Maybe it is the European Union. Maybe not like it is today. It might be a reformed European Union. Or it may be something entirely different. Or it may not be a European Union at all. It may all be symbolic. I don't know. I kind of lean toward thinking it's literal. But we need not laugh at the idea of an Antichrist or a boogie-woogie man that scares people. I grew up just like most of y'all and your kids and my kids all celebrating Halloween. And I'm not saying Halloween is evil, except for the fact that what it does is it diminishes the reality of Satan. And I honestly remember, and my mama and daddy were as straight. My mama was, I think she came over on the Mayflower, really. If she had worn one of those little Puritan hats, it wouldn't have surprised me. She was straight. And so I can't believe that she had a part in this. But my first Halloween costume was a devil outfit. It was red. I remember it, y'all. It was red. It had a tail and came with a little plastic pitchfork. And I'm sure people said, look how cute he is, Well, and so I'm not saying don't do Halloween. That's between you and God, whether or not you do Halloween and your kids and your grandkids. What I'm saying is, let's be careful not to bring him down to a comic book figure, because he is real, and for now, he is the prince of the power of the air, the ruler of this world, and there is even now a spirit of Antichrist among us, using people in high places. But the day's coming, there will be an actual person, Antichrist, who will deceive everybody, including believers. So we need to constantly pray for a spirit of discernment that helps us understand the good from the bad, the real from the phony, the genuine from the counterfeit, and keep our eyes on Jesus, because we don't know from one day to the next who we're going to pass that has the spirit of Antichrist.